Hey everyone, Holly Jensen here with Dr. Miles Bodson. And today we're going to be talking about maximizing conversion and retention. Dr. Bodson, why is that an important topic?
When I talk with doctors around, the leading problem challenge I hear from doctors, quite frankly, besides wanting more new patients, which everybody wants, is how do I stop them from dropping out? How do I get them to follow through? And when I'm out speaking, in fact, I just was speaking recently at a technique seminar, and I asked the doctors, besides your technique, besides learning to be a better doctor, what's the most important thing for your patients to get good clinical outcomes? Like for you to have the best clinical results with your patients, besides you taking the time to master what you're doing clinically, what's the most important thing? And one of the doctors right up front said patient compliance or patient follow through or patient retention, whatever you want to call it. And he was absolutely right that at the end of the day, if you want to get good clinical outcomes, you need to make sure your patients are listening to and showing up and following through. And besides the fact is it's the key to scaling your practice. It's the key to making more money. It's the key to having more joy in your practice. Like having people listen and follow through. At the end of the day, that's what we're here to help you do. That's ultimately what we do. And that's why it's important. Number one, most importantly, it's to get better clinical outcomes. But number two, it's also important because it's the best business model, right? You're going to have more people listen to you, follow through, and you're going to make more money. That's ultimately it, Holly. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah. And I've seen you speak a lot and you always show this slide that's a showstopper of people stopping in their tracks and like, what am I looking at? Because it's showing how practices that are not only converting more patients, but keeping those patients, those are the ones who are scaling. Can you talk about that graph and what we see in there?
Sure, sure. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen. I have it here. Let me bring it up, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It does get a point across quite well. Let me share screen right here. Screen one. Here we go. So let me give you a moment for that to pop up on the screen. And what you're seeing here, let me hit the slideshow button here. What you're seeing on your screen is a graph of annual collections, annual revenue of a practice. And you'll see since back 2007, 2008 to the present day, they went from about $200,000 of collections each year to over $2 million in collections. That's a 10x growth of that practice. And that's pretty impressive. But you'll also notice in this graph, it's three different colors. It's purple, green, and gold. And the green and the purple primarily represents revenue from newer patients. In fact, the green represents one-time payments. That's, people making copays, people doing prepays, whatever it may be. It's a newer person generally making a one-time payment. And you'll see that does grow each year, but not dramatically. And you'll also see the purple, and the purple on there stays about the same every year. And what is the purple? The purple represents new patients going on care plans. So that's someone who signed up for 4 months of care, 6 months of care, 8 months of care, that type of thing. And you'll see it doesn't grow very much every year. Like if that's all the revenue was for the practice was new patients on care plans, there wouldn't be any growth each year. It'd just be about the same amount of revenue per year. The green shows a little bit of growth, but where you see the massive growth is in that gold, right? You see those amount of money coming in from the gold section is where the massive amount of growth is. And you might be asking, what is that? That is the revenue coming in for people on wellness and maintenance care. Let me repeat that. That the money that's generating the revenue growth of the practice, the scaling of that practice, the exponential growth that you're seeing there, maybe not exponential, but a large amount of growth each year. I don't want to exaggerate here. You see it's growing each year. That is from the wellness patients. In order for that to happen, that means all those people that are going into that started off in the purple, they were a new patient on a care plan. Most of those patients transitioned onto a lifetime of maintenance and wellness. And that's what that represents. And the reason it's a showstopper is because most practices are terrible at converting people to long-term maintenance and wellness programs in a consistent manner. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'll stop sharing here for a moment. What I'm referring to when I talk about long-term maintenance and wellness, we're not talking about you've been in practice for 20 years and you have patient John who comes in once or twice a year. We're not talking about that person who just kind of comes in when they feel like it. What we're talking about, Holly, as you know, is doctor directed care that I say to my patient, You need to come in for maintenance care twice a month. And they've been doing that for years. Like they're following my direction. That's where the growth of the practice is in that maintenance and wellness side of things. And that's ultimately when I'm talking about scaling and building these big practices. That's really where the model is at.
Yeah, because we hear a lot about doctors wanting to invest time, energy, and money into marketing for new patients.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, like you work so hard to get those new patients, but if you're not doing what it takes to keep them, and as you mentioned, we hear from a lot of doctors the transition from finishing their corrective care plan going on to maintenance or wellness is where we see a huge drop off. And that's why in the graph that you showed, those are doctors who are not only adding new patients to the practice, but most importantly, keeping them. And that's when you can scale. I would love for you to talk about for a moment the impact that has on the practice when there's predictable, scheduled revenue coming in.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. In fact, let me just share my screen again for just a moment. In the slide deck I have here, there is another slide I'll show you. So this is showing the revenue in the past. You just talked about predictable revenue. What this slide is showing is that same practice, all that gold, which is their maintenance, is payments scheduled indefinitely into the future. So here we are, and we're doing this presentation to you here in 2026, early in the year, and you're seeing this is going all the way out through January of 2027 into the future. And this practice has about $150,000 on the schedule to come into the practice every month indefinitely, basically. And what does that do to you in practice? Imagine in your own practice, you had 30, 40, $50,000 a month of scheduled recurring payments that you knew you can count on. So what does that do? It gives you the freedom and the flexibility to know I can spend more money on marketing. I can hire people. I can take vacations, right? I get a more joy in life because I know that my revenue of my practice is not dependent upon me getting more new patients. Now, I want to just clarify something here. We're not saying you don't want to market and get new patients. We always want to get new patients, but there's a very difference in life. And I can speak from personal experience on this as well as talking to other doctors who do this. Your personal experience in life is very different when your revenue is not dependent upon new patients. That you know you can go to bed at night, and every night when you wake up, there's more revenue coming in from your existing client base, your existing patient base, simply because they're on a wellness or maintenance program. And in order to successfully have people go on that, there's a whole process we go through, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment here. But really, the takeaway message here is that if you really want true freedom in life, true freedom of your time, of your energy, of your need for always be marketing, it really comes down to you having patients who stay in the practice. And I know us chiropractors, we all like to talk about this. Oh, yeah, we want to have a good PVA and good retention. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to be able to execute it. And what I want to share with you is that there are some key things to executing that. Let me just say this one thing, and that is this. If you want to successfully transition people to wellness care, and we just got done saying, Holly and I just got done saying that one of the common places we lose people is at the end of a program of initial care going to wellness. It's very common for doctors to lose people at that point in time. Let me just give you one quick tip. In order to successfully do this, you need to do two things. One is at the end of the initial treatment plan, you need to deliver the good clinical news that they're ready for wellness care or maintenance care, that they qualify. And you need to define in your practice what that means. Does that mean you restored the cervical curve? Does that mean you corrected their posture? Like what occurred in your practice? What clinical outcome occurred that now qualifies that person to be ready to go to wellness and maintenance? So whatever that definition is in your practice, they've accomplished that goal. So clinically, they're ready. But the second thing that must happen associated with that is, doctors, you must you must deliver, you must deliver good financial news that it's going to become easier for them now to pay for those services. And what that implies is what they've been used to doing in your practice is now going to become easier. If you do those two things of deliver good clinical news and good financial news, which is basically good time. The time is going to be easier for them to commit, and the money is going to be easier to commit. Those two things, the two currencies people have is time and money. When you make that easier for people at that transition, it will become easy for those people to go on to a wellness or maintenance program. And the challenge I see many chiropractors have is they're not doing that. They're delivering good clinical news potentially, but there isn't really good financial news. It's, hey, John, the new program is X, and John has to make a decision about the new program, whether they want to spend new money in your practice to go into wellness. And it sabotages the transition for many patients. Whereas if you've had that person on, let's say, a monthly payment to begin with, maybe they've been paying you $500 a month for the last 6 months, or $600 a month for the last 12 months, or whatever it is. And you get to say, great news, clinically, you're ready for wellness. And by the way, your payment's going down from 500 down to 200. And that good news of hearing their payments going down makes it really easy for people to accept it. That's kind of like the end game here. If the end game is that people go on wellness, that's what needs to happen, which implies new patients need to be put on that kind of program to begin with. That if you don't do that correctly from the beginning, you will sabotage the back end of them transitioning to wellness. And that's really ultimately the game plan here. And again, this isn't just about the money. I want to clarify. This is about helping that patient get better clinical outcomes so that they complete the initial program. And then if your practice models that have them go into maintenance and wellness, that's the strategy we find works best for that.
I love that. So that is our area of expertise here at Cash Practice Systems. We actually give you the tools, our care plan calculator, which is the foundation of patient retention. Can you talk about the care plan calculator and why that's so powerful
Sure.
in retention and clinical outcomes?
So, docs, as you know, as you should know, putting patients on a care plan, I know TRP, you teach this, and the doctors are hearing this from TRP. Care planning is crucial. In fact, if you don't care plan and you don't do this properly, you'll never have great success. I've not seen a practice have really good success without doing this. In fact, one of the things I'll often say on stage, and that is I've seen plenty of offices do good day one, day two, do good care planning and enroll patients and not have good retention. Let me repeat that. There's plenty of offices that learn how to sell their care and enroll people in care, and yet they still don't have great retention. But the other side of the coin is that I've never seen a practice that does have good retention not have a good care plan process. Meaning you will never have good retention unless you're doing good care planning correctly. And what does that imply? Well, that means the care plan is a actual financial contract between you and the patient. And I use the word contract because even though I like to think of it more as an agreement, but it is a financial agreement. It's a contract between you and the patient for them to buy your services. It must be done correctly. This isn't something that you just learn on Facebook. Here we are right now, right? It isn't something you just learn by doing what your buddy down the street does. This isn't something you go to like your Facebook group and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And you just make up your own thing. And we're kind of in this position when we talk to doctors, it surprises me how much doctors kind of make up their own thing. And I highly, highly encourage you not to do that. And here's why. Doctors, the second leading reason doctors will get reported to their state board or have malpractice claims, and this isn't to scare you, it's just to point out the reality of it is the second leading reason is simply issues over finances. The number one reason, doctors, if you're curious, it's allegations of sexual misconduct. That is the leading reasons doctors will get in trouble. The second most common reason is issues over finances. It's crucial you do your finances correctly or you're setting yourself up for some liabilities. In fact, I'll share a screen here. Since I was sharing a screen, let me go back to my screen for a second. I want to share this one slide I often showed off offices. And again, this isn't to scare. It's just simply to point out that this is a reality. Share screen one again. Okay. And on the screen that I'm showing you right now, here's an actual email I received. And I get these emails probably a couple times a year from doctors where they find themselves in hot water and they're asking for some help. And you'll see here, it says, Dr. Bodson, and I highlighted some areas here. It says, I've spent over $25,000 going to court defending UCAF. When all said and done, I've probably spent 70 grand. UCAF was a program called Unlimited Care at a Fixed Fee. It's kind of like a membership model where people paid a fee and got unlimited services. I'm in jeopardy of a $20,000 fine and 2 years probation, like this kind of stuff. And this doctor's learned it. He learned it somewhere and was applying it when it wasn't an appropriate thing to do. The point I'm getting at is that doctors, if you don't do things correctly, you open yourself up for challenges. So the point being is, Holly, you asked about the care plan calculator. Cash Practice, our company, offers a tool called the Care Plan Calculator, which is a tool for compliantly creating these care plans. It
And I
has all
want to
the
add in the
yeah.
our care plan calculator. You just talk about compliance and doing it correctly. Our care plan calculator, like we've been doing this for over 2 decades, so we know that there are 7 essential elements for not only a compliant care plan, but one that has patients say yes to care easily because it's a easy to understand a service agreement, and it satisfying certain federal and state requirements in regards to what needs to go in there, what language needs to go in there.
Absolutely. And oftentimes I meet a doctor who says, "Oh, we create our own spreadsheet." And that's all well and good that you do quote unquote the math through a spreadsheet. That being said, though, more often than not, probably 9 out of 10 spreadsheets we see, they're still calculating things improperly. They're applying discounts inappropriately, or potentially they're discounting things that shouldn't be getting discounted, such as insurance visits. And oftentimes they're losing money because the way they're calculating things, you're actually leaving money on
Bring
the
up a
table.
good point. I was just working with a doctor who had like these beautiful care plans that he created on Excel mixed with Canva, and so he came to us because he's like, I'm worried about the compliance and I know financial issues are harming my practice, so I want to make sure I'm doing it right. And looking at his care plans and I'm adding in the services, I'm just like, your math isn't mathing. Like you've been miscalculating all along, and that could get you into serious water, especially if you're overcharging the patient, or like you said, you're applying discounts to things that should not be discounted. And
And
that's where our Arab expertise comes in.
and at a minimum, even just losing money, whether it's a compliance thing or not, like if you're just calculating things wrong, you might be leaving thousands of dollars on the table just for that reason alone. That being said, Cash Practice, our company, provides a tool called the Care Plan Calculator. And as Holly, you just said, we've been doing this for over 2 decades. We have thousands of clients. We're highly endorsed by TRP. TRP is always referring their clients to us for using care planning to do the actual care planning component of things. Um, and it's a great tool for exactly that purpose. But I want to emphasize that, you know, chiropractors, um, DC, I often hear is referred to as doctor of creativity. And I say that because 90% of what I see out there is like, why are you doing what you're doing? It doesn't make any sense financially. It doesn't make any sense what you've created here. It just doesn't make sense. And without seeing necessarily what you're doing that's listening right now, it's very possible that what you're doing in your practice right now is just it could be way better, allow you to scale. Not
Let,
only that, you also want to make it repeatable by your team. You want to have a system in place so that's repeatable.
and that's what TRP teaches, right? Is having systems in place. And so, Dr. Bodson, this kind of leads us into the next thing of one of these 7 essential elements that care plans need are affordable payment options. And I know there's a lot of behavioral psychology in the payment options that our calculator.
Yeah.
Can you touch on that? And then
Sure. So one of the common, before I touch on that, let me just talk about some of the common things that are done out there that doesn't make sense to me. One of the common things our profession has taught is to do prepay programs, have everybody prepay for care. The challenge with that, and I understand why doctors want to do it, they want to get paid and get the money out of the way, and I get it. But from the standpoint of what it does to the practice is, number one is that model, for example, requires you to do a quote, you got to get people to do something they don't normally do, right? You're normally most people don't prepay
gonna
for things.
sell them,
Yeah,
right?
you got to sell them per se. The other problem with it is, and there's two other problems. One is if you're building a practice around prepays, you're now building a practice around money that doesn't belong to you. And I can speak from personal experience that many years ago, I did prepay programs, and I had this experience one week where 3 military families got transferred out of town who all prepaid money to me, and I had the pleasure of writing about $10,000 of refunds that week. And of course, I could do it. I had the money there to refund the money, but it dawned on me that I'm building a life personally, home and all the stuff you do in your life based upon your business income was all built upon borrowed money. It wasn't really my money until I run into the service. And that scared me. I'm like, wow, all of a sudden tomorrow patients could quit and I owe them all this money back and I'm kind of screwed. So I realized it wasn't a great way of building the business model. And then last but not least is that what we found is people who prepaid rarely renewed onto wellness. Most of those patients dropped out after their initial program. So it just didn't work really well. So if you're in that boat, you might identify with some of the things I just shared with you right there. As far as the psychology behind the payment options, number one is you want to make sure you're offering these three options, and these are the same three options people are used to doing everywhere else in their life, right? It's not new and unique and creative, right? One of them is a monthly payment. And those months of payments should equal the number of months of treatment. So if the treatment plan is 6 months, it's 6 months of payments. If the treatment plan is 8 months, it's 8 months of payments. Number two is you can have them make a down payment with smaller monthly payments. So this is my favorite option where they maybe pay a third of it down and the rest of it's paid monthly. That works really well. It's kind of a hybrid between a prepay and a monthly, right? You're getting some prepay money up front so that you're getting that commitment. You're not running the risk of providing a bunch of services up front and them, leaving owing you a bill, right? And then you're still establishing that monthly payment habit, and that's really important. Again, going back to the transition to wellness, if you have them making a monthly payment, it makes it much easier to transition them to wellness later on. And then the third option, of course, is the one I just got done beating up, and that is the prepay option. For those who do want to prepay, if you offer that as a choice, some people choose to do that. That's just the way they operate their life, is they just write a check and pay for everything. In fact, I know that works because there was a time where we took prepays off our options. We didn't offer it, and then people asked for it. Those are the people who will renew because that's just the way they live their life. And we'll find about 10 to 20% of people will choose that option. But about 80% of your patients would choose one of the monthly payment options. And we found that to work extremely well in practice, and it still works to this day. It builds into that recurring revenue. One thing I didn't mention, and Holly, I just want to mention and talk about the money side of things.
Yeah.
Doctors, those of you looking to scale your practices, you're looking to build the most value out of your business. Maybe you're in this model where eventually you're going to sell your business and exit for a larger sum of money. Just know that if your practice is one that's built on recurring revenue, you have lots of money coming into your practice that's recurring revenue, like the graph I showed you. That practice is worth to an investor, to a equity company, or whoever might be buying you. You're worth way more than a practice that is new patient revenue dependent, where the revenue is dependent on new people showing up all the time. The difference in valuation is significant. To put that out there. But going back to your question about the behavioral psychology of it, we want to do what works easy for people. And people make their financial decisions based on a monthly amount. That's how people decide what houses they can afford or what cars they can afford. And when it comes to major expenses, they look at the monthly amount. So it's really important, we find, that you package your care in a monthly amount.
And so one of the other services that we provide is payment processing. And so
Yes,
it's a natural fit to automate and use a system that not only creates your compliant service agreement, your care plans, but it also will automate the way the payments are being collected, which
correct.
then helps that scalability. I do want to rewind just a little bit because, our company name is Cash Practice Systems. And so a lot of practices think like, oh, but I accept insurance. Can you talk about how we help practices who accept insurance
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. Don't let our name confuse you. Cash practice, we help all types of practice, whether it's cash insurance blend. Basically, if the practice wants to see patients on a long-term basis, you'll benefit from utilizing us. End of story. In fact, one of the common reasons insurance type practices lose patients is because their model is, let's use the insurance, and when the insurance runs out, we will then transition them to a new program or try to do that. And we all know that doesn't work very well. Whereas if you do a care plan utilizing our services and you build the insurance right in from the beginning, you pretty much eliminate people dropping out because the insurance ran out because of the fact they're already committed to that program. That's ultimately how we help these practices. That doctor, if you're in insurance and you're wanting to have people stay beyond the insurance and be able to say this person needs a more comprehensive program, absolutely a service like ours, Cash Practice, using our care plan calculator will assist in that process. And Holly, you brought up the auto debit system, the payment system, that ultimately, if you're going to schedule a recurring payment, you want to process that payment. Now, there's lots of companies out in the world that process payments for, in the world, there's lots of credit card card companies out there. And there's a handful that serve the chiropractic profession as a kind of a niche. And we've been doing it a long time. When you compare us to the others out there doing payment processing, there's others out there that you're familiar with that do payment processing. I'll just point out this. We all do similar things where, recurring payments and one-time payments. However, when it comes to the service side of things, when it comes to reviews online, when it comes to integrations, you will find no better than us. If you go look at our reputation online, we're 5-star reviews across the board. If you look at some of the others in the industry doing this, about 10% of their reviews are 1-star reviews. And you got to ask yourself in your own practice, if you had 10% of your reviews being 1-star reviews, people would kind of frown upon coming to see you as a practice. And I'm just sharing that with you. If you go do your own research, you'll see that out there, all the others out there do not have stellar reputations. Whereas Cash Practice, when you do work with us, you're going to get extraordinarily great service. And I'll say this, that our team is all onshore. We're not offshoring our support. They're all chiropractic people who know chiropractic. They know what your team is doing.
And
So
we're
if you're
like
looking for that,
humans.
yeah, we're live humans. We're not AI. You're getting a real human being helping you in that regard. So,
I'll also add, because we've talked about the impact that care planning and auto debits, right? Forecasting care and frictionless payments. We're talking about the impact that that has on patients. They're getting better clinical outcomes because they're following through. The doctor is being financially rewarded, being paid what they should be paid. There's you can scale, you have predictable revenue, it's bringing you more joy and freedom. But when it comes to the impact that using systems like this has on the team, what's your experience with that?
well, I think you probably speak to that better than I can, but from the standpoint on the team, I'll just say this, doctors, we see that in the average practice when you do this, you're saving about 40 hours of payroll per month just from an efficiency standpoint, that it reduces that much workload on your team. And we've done the analysis to kind of cut where that number comes from. But Holly, you could probably speak a little bit more on from the standpoint of the team member who's utilizing this kind of stuff, what it does for them in their practice.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna nerd out here for a moment on this because AI is all the rage, and I've been using AI in my job, and it has increased my output, increased my efficiency, my productivity, and I want you to use that same model. If you've experienced that yourself in your practice, whether you're using it with social media or patient education, whatever you are using AI for, imagine having automated payments in your practice and patients on care plans. That's the impact that it's going to have on your team because they're not being bogged down with the mundane activities of tracking things, taking payments over the counter, chasing down money. When you have this set up properly, you really are having one or two financial conversations with the patient, one at the beginning when they enroll into care and they say, yes, sign me up, auto debit my card on file, and I'm committing to 6 months of care. Then as the team member, I'm cheering that patient along. My job is much more rewarding, and I'm not having to ask the patients for money every time. So it's just not only boosted my productivity, but I can have more meaningful conversations with the patients and then focus my other areas of expertise on other avenues of the practice.
And I want to add, Holly, so, it makes the doctor's life better. The team operates more efficiently and they have more joy and all of that stuff. But I'll also emphasize it's a more pleasurable experience for the patient as well, because no longer are they having to stop at the desk every visit and pull out their wallet and exchange money. Like none of all of that kind of disappears. So that's, it's just better for everybody. It's just better for everybody.
All right, Dr. Bodson. So on the this whole topic of care planning, can you just take a moment and just recap why this is so important to potentially work with us for care?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking that because oftentimes doctors, we need to hear things multiple times. So let me just share something with you guys. Again, I'm going to use some slides here to kind of get the point across. I mentioned earlier that issues of our finances are one of the leading reasons doctors get in trouble. And just to remind you that, like, this is really important that we take care of this so that it's not, an issue for you. What are the consequences if you have board complaints? I think it's pretty straightforward, that it creates stress and financial loss and, higher premiums, a loss of goodwill. Like you don't want to have this kind of stuff happen. It's not just something you take lightly. From the standpoint of what causes these financial issues, let me just summarize it this way. There's two things. Either your finances are improperly set up which is why we're going to talk about care planning, or you have poor communication around it, like the communication around your finances. And quite frankly, they're both equally important. You got to make sure you're communicating correctly around this stuff. And I'm going to give you a resource of how you can practice having your team communicate properly around finances, but also making sure they're set up correctly. And again, I mentioned the spreadsheets, not doing things improperly. This is just to remind you, don't do the spreadsheets, don't do this handwritten stuff. It just creates stress for your life and for your practice. We want to avoid those things, and here's the proper way of doing it. This is what a proper care plan should look like. This is an actual output from our care plan calculator. You can see this is a very professional looking document. It outlines all the services that you'd be recommending, what the fees are. It has a proper legal terms of agreement. It has all the places people will sign. It's an actual professional document that you want to be utilizing for actually doing your care planning. When you enroll someone in care, it's not just producing the agreement, it's also capturing their digital signature. It's going to charge the payment. It's a whole platform for actually enrolling someone in care and making it seamless for the practice. So it's not, again, just simply a tool for creating the plan. It's actually to enroll them. Now, when it comes to reviewing care plans with patients, again, there's a whole communication side of things. I want to give you a resource for those of you who want your team to be able to easily be trained on how do you review care plans with a patient. Holly, you mentioned the 7 elements of a financial report of findings or a financial of a care plan. Well, we have a free tool for you. There's nothing to buy. It's a free tool for you. Simply text your full name and email to 619-830-5570 and ask for the financial.
5575. So for
I'm
those
sorry,
questions.
5575. Yeah, 619-830-5575. Free access. Text your full name and email to that number, and we will email you a link to be able to watch that video and download the script on how you go over a review finances with a patient. This
Nothing to buy. It's easy, like 20-minute video where I'm breaking down these 7 essential elements of not only keeping you compliant with your care plans, but having this easy conversation with the patient that doesn't feel salesy.
And I will tell you that the doctors who use this or have their team do it, we get reports back from them all the time how much more success their CAs and their team members are having of actually reviewing finances with the patient and having that clear conversation around it. Next is, I just want to share with you just real quickly, when doctors utilize this, they get great results. Here's Dr. Jason Day talking about converting his patients to long-term care. Over 90% of his people converting to care by using our care plan calculator. Or Dr. Felicity Keogh talking about how she went from 20% enrollment rate to nearly 100% enrollment rate by using the care plan calculator. Or Dr. Kurt Bass here. I believe all chiropractors are on a journey to not only help patients heal and see miracles, but that we also want to run a successful, profitable practice. I've been coached by some of the best volume and collection coaches in the industry. Since implementing the care plan calculator, we are charging more, discounting less, and getting the yes at an even higher percent than we did before. Hear that. He's been trained by all the best, and just simply using this tool, he's making more money as a result of doing it. And they go on and on and on about the reviews. Implementing cash practice has been a game changer for our office. And all of the TRP coaches, or many of the TRP coaches, I should say, many are referring to us as well as clients themselves, like Dr. Lona Cook, not only referring to us as a coach, but has been a client of cash practice for over 15 years or so as well. Dr. Pete Camioli, as you know, has been a big fan of ours, and as well as Dr. Christopher Gear, another one of our clients, who's also a TRP coach that uses cash practice. If you're going to use us, just quick noting that our payment system does integrate with many of the EHRs you're familiar with, so that the payments that you run with us would automatically post into that EHR. I want to share with some specials that we have available for you guys. Holly, I know people are wanting to kind of wrap up here, so let me just share with you, if you want to use cash practice or want to learn more, we have a couple options for you. We're going to call this the Care Plan Conversion Package, which includes our Care Plan Calculator and Auto Debit System. Option 1 is simply this. It includes unlimited care plans, unlimited auto debits, unlimited online payment forms, unlimited pay now links for people to pay you online, an auto card updater feature, which is one of my favorites for updating patients' credit cards by the bank. They do it for you. Gift card program, mobile payment app. It includes all of this stuff, an account success manager, ongoing live support. Normally includes team member training. Normally to sign up for this, it's $9.29. It's $129 a month. There's an $800 onboarding fee. For those of you who want to take action now, $200 savings. All you got to do is book a demo with us. That membership is month to month. There's no long-term commitment. There's no contract. You can cancel it at any time. It equates to really only $4.25 per day. That's how cheap it is for you to actually implement this into your practice. To save that $200, simply text TRP demo with your name and email to that same phone number. Text 619-830-5575. Text TRP demo with your name and email. That offer expires June 7th. June 7th. So text that number with TRP demo, and someone from our team will schedule that demo for you, and you'll qualify for a $200 discount. For those of you who are action takers that want to save even more, we have a second option, our VIP special to save $500. Literally, you can sign up for $500 less. You'll skip the demo and you just sign yourself up. Simply go to cashpractice.com/join. And on the sign up page, there's a place for a promo code. Enter TRP500 and it'll sign you up, saving $500. That is a limited time special for those of you who take action yourself. That again means you did not do a demo. You're just doing this on your own. That offer also expires June 7th. So let me recap here. And by the way, ask yourself in the future, if you looked back in the future and you could talk to your younger self, would you be happy with the decision you made? This is my good friend Rich Varvel, who actually was a patient of mine. And that's actually a picture of him when he was younger. That's when he was my patient, actually. And he actually recently posted to say, if I could only go back in time to talk to some sense into this kid. And that sentiment of, I wish each, I'm sure we each have this thing where I can go back to my younger self and make a decision like, hey, you should have done this. Well, there's no younger version of yourself other than who you are today. And the question is, in a year from now, are you going to look back and say, did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing? And let me repeat those offers again. Option one, save $200, just book a demo. Text TRP demo to in your name and email to that phone number, 619-830-5575. And our team will reach out to you, book that demo, and you'll be qualified for $200 off. For those of you who want to save even more, save $500, skip the demo. Go to cashpractice.com/join, enter promo code TRP500. That will expire on June 7th, and you can save $500. If you do get a demo, we can't offer that $500 savings to you. So just again, make sure you recognize that's for you to self-sign up. That being said, Holly, I'll stop that right now and just turn it back to you as we wrap up here. I wanted to make it really clear for people how you could take advantage of getting our care plan calculator, save some money. We're here to support you guys and want to see you greatly succeed in practice.
Yes, well said. I do want to add, I know TRP clients are all over the world. When it comes to utilizing our services, our care plan calculator can be used anywhere in the world. When it comes to the payment processing that we provide, we're limited to the continental United States and Canada. So talk to Dr. Kilmatovich over there in Canada. He's been a member with us for about 18, 20 years. So he'll be happy to share his experience with you. So you guys, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to being of service to you. Have an amazing day.